I have a large, beautiful wooden camera. I'm a quick talker, and I can convince people in a few seconds because I'm sincerely interested in them. But I am more interested in capturing what I see in them. It's not that I want to be their friend. It's that I see their life, and it's amazing, and I want to put it in an image. It's a short but deep connection. Then I go back to being alone, but have one more lightning bug in a bottle, one more piece of evidence as to who we are. With Dogbreath, I went back to 4x5 and I was moving as quickly as possible. And it was a lot of walking with the 4x5. The light was the first thing that kind of attracted me to making pictures in Tucson, because it's a very distinct light for me. It's a very poignant but crisp light. The light and the architecture was what first kind of drew me to the space. But also I was just interested in all of these adolescents that were walking around what was, seemingly the hottest place on earth. But yeah, I don't know. To go back to the light and the architecture, I don't know what the initial attraction was. All I know is that I have this new way of working where I just don't let myself overthink things. I just don't get ahead of myself, and I just kind of drift. I just go and make pictures and bring them back and then kind of see what the connective tissue is. I started making pictures of the youth and the boys on the street, and a lot of my adolescence was going to punk shows and playing in bands and stuff like that. That's what was important to me when I was younger. So before the pandemic, I had the idea that I would go to a couple shows in Tucson and make pictures there. And I went to a couple shows and I made some pictures and they just weren't right. And then the pandemic happened. And during the pandemic, I feel like a lot of people were doing this. They were kind of taking stock and kind of looking back at a lot of, everyone had a lot of time to go through their archives and to kind of revisit a lot of things that maybe they had missed. And during that time, I was listening to a lot of the music that I listened to in high school, and then was kind of going back and filling in the spots and trying to understand a lot more about the history, which maybe I probably didn't give a shit about that at the time. I found this like old Black Flag cassette that at some point I remember seeing. So I grabbed that and I rented it, and I started photographing the screen one day. I don't know why. Just some of the frames that I was pausing on were just interesting. So I got those back and I started putting those next to some of the kids and the landscapes, and it just worked. Something just felt right. And, I don't want to speak in place of the work, but I'd like to think that the video stills are kind of what ties my youth to the youth in the book. I mean, this, but I don't want to speak for any young person now, but music and movies used to be such a larger part of our identities. The scarcity of music and the scarcity of films is what really built who you were when you were young. And when you gave somebody a tape or you burned somebody a CD, it really meant something. It felt like you were kind of like giving a piece of yourself over to somebody. And so in a lot of the ways, like the video stills are kind of me handing that over in a way. At least that's the way that I kind of see it, because a lot of the video stills are from movies that I used to watch and home videos and, skate videos I used to watch. And then at one point I started actually feeding photographs that I had made through the TV and then re-photograph them again. Yeah, and the TV just kind of became its own language throughout the book. when you're younger, I feel like there are these few moments, and if you're lucky enough to recognize them, they are moments that kind of show you another way of life, or maybe a new language that feels like it's a pure form of expression to you. It almost feels like a homecoming or something. I mean, not that you can't have that later in your life, but the distinct moment, or one of the distinct moments for me, was watching, there's a documentary about the band Fugazi. It's called Instrument, and it's towards the beginning, and the band is playing Shut the Door. And I remember seeing that and just knowing that there was another way. There was another way, not out, but I connected with that language in that moment. And when you're in the suburbs, and everyone's life is different, but from the exterior, it's kind of all the same. It's just a very like welcoming moment when you see something like that.